Hi, folks, and welcome. Today, we're going to talk about AI. Now, having said that, that means anything. So, I want to speak today specifically about three challenges in regulating AI. So, regulating artificial intelligence poses several challenges due to the technology's complex and rapidly evolving nature. So, here are three that I'm going to touch base here with you today. One is the ethical considerations. We need to address that a little bit. Technical complexity, and three, international coordination. So the ethical consideration are significant in regulating AI. Navigating through the ethical implications associated with the use of AI is a big matter to discuss among the experts, the universities, the corporate environment, and also government. And we'll touch on that a little bit later. The other one is the technical complexity of it. So for you to regulate AI, the regulators, most likely political figures, will have to understand what actually AI do. So it becomes a challenge for the industry experts, academia, and even government trying to understand the inner workings of AI and what the capabilities are. I'll touch a little bit that on also later. And finally, the international correlation, because AI is cross-border, right? It's borderless. And affecting the entire global community, having coordination among nations on what to do with AI and cross-border information going from country to country is also a challenge for regulating AI at the end of the day. So going back to ethical issues. So first is privacy. So AI often relies on information and vast amount of information to train their models, the large language models, or LLM. These can include personal and sensitive data as well, so leading to privacy concerns. Now, EU came up with and is still working towards AI governance model for them to protect their citizens' privacy. Other countries such as the US, where we don't have such a centralized law, well, we'll have basically what's going to end up being an agency-based regulation where potentially would have conflicts in the future. So yet to see, more to come, I guess, right? So privacy being one. The second is bias and fairness, something that we're going to have to look under the ethical concerns of AI. So AI systems can inadvertently perpetuate the biases of the data that it's collecting and even create new bias based on the data it's collecting. So decisions are based on that data has to be watched. So leading to criminal justice decisions later on what to do with it. So regulators must address the algorithm fairness of the AI models, accountability of discriminatory outcomes, if there's one, who's responsible for it, and so on and so forth. So is an area of concern right now under the ethical compliance. Accountability and transparency. Currently, AI models right now are black box. You don't know the data it was trained on. So understanding that and having more a type of open source model, trying to understand or at least be able to disclose where the data is coming from that is being trained and how the decisions are being made is an area that needs to be addressed during regulation. Autonomous decision making, that has been a problem for a while now. Now, generative AI or ChatGPT and its cousins, if you will, brought this to light again. So AI systems can make autonomous decisions without the consultation of a human being. This has raised questions in the past with loans decision, hiring decisions, and so forth that perpetuate that bias that we just spoke about. So having understanding of that decision making that happens in that black box, understanding the algorithm and the complexity of AI is critical for us start that conversation in terms of how we're going to regulate AI. So, addressing these ethical or compliance issues involves various stakeholders, including the developers, ethics, legal experts, and all the affected communities that could be held against. So, that cross border collaboration needs to exist. Now, from a technical complexity perspective, there are once again, let's dive in on that one. One is understanding the algorithm, trying to understand how decisions are being made on that black box is very important. So understanding how the learning models work and can be challenged to comprehend to begin with. And remember, you are speaking to political figures that write the laws in the United States, for example, or any country for that matter, is especially those that require an extensive explanation of the algorithm. How are we going to communicate that so we have a better understanding so we can write laws accordingly? Policymakers are not AI experts, but they are the one that actually write the laws. The evolving landscape is another factor that we need to consider under this umbrella of technical complexity. So the AI technology continue to changing at a rapid pace. Since November 2022, with the release of ChatGPT and generative AI, just coming up the ranks and shaking up the AI world, now is it continually evolving. New ways of using AI, new ways to integrating AI, new ways of making decisions and redundant tasks more often than not using that AI library, that large language model to make the decision to take in charge of those. We need to continue observe this evolving landscape and what else can be done around that. Lack of standardized practice. Currently, yes, we face that because we just came up with, right? Not to say AI, but generative AI brought this upon us. AI has been a while here. As a matter of fact, EU's been writing that AI governance model, I believe, since 2019, 2020. So they are working on this for a while now. So having standardized practice around that methodologies in AI development poses a challenge to regulators. That most definitely, because not having one, it becomes difficult in terms of how we all going to do. You remember when the standardized practice we're talking about is not unique to the country. This is a global concern. So how can we collaborate with other nation states to make sure that we have a common set of practices with AI? Last but not least, the testing validation of AI. Regulators face challenges in evaluating the performance of safety on AI system. Rigorous testing and validation of these processes are necessary so we can understand and ensure the AI systems are functioning as intended so we can regulate them and write laws around it. So in terms of last topic that I mentioned is international coordination that needs to exist because this is a global challenge. Once again, and we have to back out a little bit. We might see AI from a corporate perspective. That's our job. Then we might see from an industry perspective. Now we open the aperture a little bit more, and then we might see from a nation perspective. But is a global. There's no borders in terms of using AI. So one is diverging regulatory approaches from one country to another, from one nation to another, from one continent to another. We need to understand, because if we are sharing AI technology across borderlines, we need to have similar or at least complementary rules around what to do with the training data, the input, and also the output of that, and in between, which is the black box. What we're doing that and what is allowed, not allowed in terms of performance of that. Cross-border data flow. And we have to understand what information can go out, what information can come in. That concern still exists with or without AI, but now with AI, it becomes rapidly more involved in how to do and control that. Lastly, is intellectual property rights. Because AI often involves using data that is collected from the internet or other sources, intellectual property rights, including patent copyrights and trade secrets, is a concern using AI. What you're doing about it as an organization, what we're doing about it as a nation in protecting AI. Uh, International standards and guidelines need to be addressed. And also, enforcement and compliance of regulatory AI requires a mechanism to enforce it, the compliance monitoring. So not only we have to write that regulation, we also have to come up with a strategy on how we're gonna monitor that. Now, nobody likes extra laws. Nobody likes extra scrutiny that is enforced into organization. But based on observations, anything that is voluntary won't have a standardized implementation because it's voluntary. Companies will not use that standard if it is not forced upon them. Unfortunately, how it works. Voluntary standards, larger organizations perhaps can adopt, but smaller organizations will have to be mandated to enforce that. Otherwise, we'll have other avenues and other more important stuff will come up on the list, and that particular regulation won't be applied.